Welcome to Experiments in Leadership. I am Sonu Bhasin. Experiments in Leadership is a space where industry leaders share their thoughts and stories about various facets of leadership. As always, before I start the conversation, I do want to take this opportunity to ask you to subscribe to my channel. It has great conversations with some super cool people and it is free to you. So go for it. Yes, today's guest. The millennials and Gen Zs of today could do well to learn from Pradeep Banerjee, who's our guest today. In this age of extreme career mobility, Pradeep has made his mark in the industry, and a great mark at that, by working at Unilever. He started his career as a management trainee and spent nearly 4 decades in the company across various leadership roles in many countries. Currently, he is a senior advisor at BCG and a member on the board of several companies. He also mentors startups in the area of logistics, sustainability, and go-to-market in the retail space. Welcome to Experiments in Leadership, Pradeep, and looking forward to the conversation with you.
Thank you.
And your experiences. So, Pradeep, you spent your working life in one company and a large company. But I suspect that within that large company were a lot of smaller companies, and especially as you worked in different countries as well. So the question I have for you is, did you have to use different leadership styles across your various roles in various geographies? And as a corollary, did you also see different leadership styles in different countries?
First of all, thank you, Sonu, for having me here. And at the onset, I have to admit that I find myself, I don't know, a little ill-equipped to, profess, ill-equipped to give gyan, to be very clear. But having said that, it's a pleasure to talk to you. And frankly, I have grown as a person as I work with a company. And I joined this company just fresh out of college and basically retired 40 years later. But in between, and coming back directly to your question, in between, if I were to see my own development and as I've moved through various parts of the organization, I have to hand it over to a company like Unilever, and I'm sure I have got the experience of Unilever, and they're equally competent, large organizations give you this flexibility. And whatever I have learned, it's actually coming from real on-the-job experiences. The styles are very different when you move to UK or Southeast Asia or Nepal or various parts of India. In fact, India itself is a union of India. And if you take the kind of behavior set and the culture and the responses you will get in North India versus West or South, they're completely different. And in my last role, I had close to 80 plus, units in the large supply chain in various parts of the country, and every place had its own. And I think the first thing which you learn, therefore, is to figure out some fundamentals of whatever job you're doing. Right. And go back to the subject of the leadership lessons or leadership conversations. Some things have remained constant, and some things you need to keep on evolving. And there is the first thing I would like to admit, these are all my own personal interpretations, my personal experiences, my personal, the way I have responded. And I'm acutely conscious that there is no right or wrong answer in this space, despite whatever you may read. Absolutely. You can read yourself to absolute madness, but at the end of the day, you will get some, I call it peace, but you will get some sort of stability if you begin to form a point of view of your own. To me, there are three things which are, when I look back, and these, it's not as if one day this was clear to me. It was not clear to me. But when I keep on, as a learning human being, as I keep on seeing what is common, three things stand out for me. At any place, you should be very clear as to what you want to do. You should be very clear how you want to do this. Be very clear when you want to do this. And they may appear to be a very classical, almost cliched kind of what, how, and when. But the fact is, the way we approach each of these platforms has made me feel, or made me deliver results which are superior or otherwise. And when I retrospect back why something is not working, it's
Yeah.
precisely they made some error of judgment in one of these three.
Yeah.
Fourth thing which is very important for me is, or which is not important for me, fourth thing which is very, which happens to for everybody, I guess, and some values of you as a human being, some
Yeah.
values of you as a leader, some values of you as a person. You cannot be a pretender. You cannot be a different person when you're walking into the office.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
bring a set of values which are your own work person values. And I'm not talking about the company, purpose and all those are important. They have a place. But I'm just focusing on you as a person or me as a person.
Hmm.
And how that has changed over a period of time from being very unsure, at times very insecure, at times not knowing what to do, at times even being afraid to ask questions in the fear that what will people think about me. I have gone through those early stages
Yeah.
to a place where today I am able to actually say very clearly, look, guys, we have a problem. I don't know about this.
Yeah.
So, and this journey as a person, I would urge all I talk to, everybody I talk to, be at least be aware of this,
Right.
because it goes a long way in giving you, building you as a leader. Because people are looking at you all the time. People, you are being evaluated or looked at or looked upon or looked at all the time.
Yeah.
And what you say is important, and what you do not say is probably even more important.
You're absolutely right. You're
So,
absolutely
what
right.
you want to do, how you want to do this, when you want to do this, and what is the person you are bringing to the job, I think is very critical.
Yeah.
So, at the early days of my journey, at each stage, when I look back now, I have got some time to look back now. This has been this has been so true, and it gets sharper and sharper. And now, when I talk to, I have learned actually more about the world outside of the FMCG and the traditional areas I used to work when I sit on the board of a consumer durables company, or on the board of a heavy chemicals company, or on a
Yeah.
board of something else. The
Hmm.
cycle, so many things are different, but
Hmm.
many of these things are absolutely the same across industries. So,
Right.
as a leader, as a person, I think it's very important that we are aware of this. So, these are the first four things, Sonu, which come to my mind.
Yeah.
Uh, Going back to your question on culture, yes, culture is different, but I think we pay far more importance to that cultural aspect, because
Hmm.
if you take these four things, in my view, in my experience has been, if these four areas which are described, if you are clear, if you are articulate and say it with empathy and a bit of integrity, cultural differences are important. The execution of in north and south of the country, or in Singapore or Brazil, would be very different. But
Hmm.
four things are almost universal, and they cut across. The cultural nuances, in my view. In
Yeah.
my view.
Yeah. No, I think you said some very, very pertinent things, and I do want to just focus on maybe a couple of them before we go into the various experiments. So, one, you said that you can't be a pretender. And this is something that a lot of people kind of forget. They forget that just as they themselves can identify somebody who's lying or who's pretending, similarly, others can also detect immediately when they themselves are lying. And so we all live in this make-believe world that, I can lie to people and I won't be caught out. But the moment somebody else lies to me, that person is going to be caught out. And for leaders to be seen as a real person, I think is very important. And second, you said that, you grew in confidence, or that confidence grew in you to be able to say, guys, I don't know about this, tell me more. And a lot of them, and maybe I speak as a woman, maybe a lot of women, so let's keep the gender out, a lot of managers uh, uh, are unable to speak out, are unable to voice their view, because they think that log kya kahenge, log kya sochenge. So quick gyan, you said you don't want to give gyan, but quick tips on how to overcome this fear of be thinking that you're going to be ridiculed?
Look, let me take both the points you raised. I think for me, they probably are central to many of the day-to-day existence as a person, whether at work or outside of work. And lying may be too strong a word.
Yeah,
But I think the word which comes to my mind is authenticity.
right.
Uh, and as long as you are authentic in
To
saying
yourself, to what? Authentic to what?
authentic as a person, I should not be telling you something which I do not believe in myself. I should
Right,
not be expecting you to do something which I will have hesitance in doing.
right.
I should not be giving you a picture of that everything is absolutely fine when something is burning. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I should not. I'm fundamentally optimist. I'm a glass half full guy always.
Yeah.
So you will see, look at the bright side, but it will be stupid of me to not highlight that there is the other aspect as well. And my experience has been when you are authentic, when you back that up with a little bit of compassion, and when you back that up with a little bit of understanding and the ability to listen,
Yeah.
the net outcome in a team situation is absolutely fantastic because
Hmm. Hmm.
people are with you not
Hmm.
only from not only from the head but also from the heart. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
and if you were to almost see these two as slightly different spaces, you can appeal to the intellectual side of a guy. But unless you emotionally get him involved, and it is true for all our communication, but especially in our interactions with people
Yeah.
at work and outside of work,
Yeah.
this authenticity to me is weighs very high on the priority.
Right.
Secondly, I have been fortunate enough in my career to meet many outstanding leaders
Mm-hmm.
in organization and some outside of the organization as well.
Hmm.
But if I see, and I have learned so much from them, and one of the things which a company like Unilever does is gives you that opportunity to talk to people from whom you can learn. My
Hmm.
first thing has been, and in fact, if I go back in time, the first leader, so to say, the guy who really, I'll always remember him, was actually a shift officer in a shop floor.
Right.
Actually, told me how to manage people. He
Really.
was, I still remember his name without getting in there, but he said, "You come with me. You just for 3 weeks, I will make you fit enough to run any shift on your own. But just see what I do, and then you take your call."
Yeah.
And things like integrity, things like trust, things like empowerment, things like accountability, things like ability to give feedback without any uh, without any judgment.
Mm-hmm.
In one
Mm-hmm.
moment, you can tell a guy that you have been absolutely great at this, and the second moment, you can tell him you have been absolutely an idiot at this,
Hmm.
without any judgment whatsoever. And both the statements are true.
Hmm.
Uh, he exhibited that to me in his own natural way.
Yeah.
All of this and probably more. He was not even, I think he was barely out of school in the old
Hmm.
days. So I considered him to be an outstanding leader. And
Hmm.
after 3 weeks, he actually stayed there. I knew he was there. I was getting into an Bombay factory those days where I started my life. It was heydays of fairly militant unionism and
Unions.
uh,
Yeah.
have grown up in that. But never has been a day where I have felt that I'm under any kind of awkwardness dealing with
Hmm.
a bunch of 200 people, middle
Hmm.
of the in a, in a shop floor kind of environment. And later on, the learnings from that time have been with me since almost till the day. So
Yeah.
leadership lessons can come from anywhere. I think that's the first thing
Yeah.
for me. But what we learn, we need to have the ability to take the you know irrelevant stuff away, which are situational to that particular instance, and
Hmm.
understand why it is working. Then there have been some leaders who have been outstanding in uh, and going to your second point,
Hmm.
I knew that this guy, without getting into names, some of them are still working.
Hmm.
You take a guy like Sanjeev Mehta, you take a guy like Nitin Paranjpe, you take
Hmm.
many of the guys who I have worked with. These
Hmm.
guys are outstanding people. Their ability to grasp important things are
Yeah.
phenomenal, but they would retain this place that it tell me something more because I don't understand. The style of interaction is based on a level of equality and querying,
Yeah.
which puts you at ease.
Mhm.
And this is a leadership style almost where you can continue to ask questions, make them comfortable. And I knew that many of the questions I'm being asked, not only by these two people, but many other people, many other more senior people at that point of time, people need to give me the space to formulate my own response rather than getting their point of view on what they thought. Because I know that this guy has been there for 5 years before I even walked into this. How can he not have a point of view on this?
Right.
He not be running that particular factory or a particular organization, part of the organization, but he has been heading that organization. It's not that he doesn't know about it, but the kind of querying he would do. So, as I have felt comfortable asking, tell me more, I do not know. Uh, this lesson comes from knowing that if I do that, I probably will end up learning much more than I do even today.
Yes. Yes.
So if you have that, how can I say, belief that asking questions is actually not bad. Appearing to have no knowledge is probably not bad. It just shows the open, inquisitive mind. It shows a mind which is refusing to accept status quo, which I personally believe is a very strong attribute to have, because if you um, begin to defend the status quo, then or believe in the status quo, or take the status quo as a given, then no change will ever happen.
Then no change will happen. Yeah. No, so the ability to ask questions is also an indication that you're not all that arrogant, that you don't say I know it all. Just because I have the designation doesn't mean I have all the knowledge. So yeah, so I just wish that more people, more youngsters would ask those questions. I think maybe the millennials and the Gen Zs don't suffer from that problem. I think it's our generation that suffered from the problem कि भाई ये लोग क्या सोचेंगे. I think the youngsters in one sense I think are much better, and I think they will do much better because they do not suffer from this discomfort or underconfidence that I don't know and therefore I will not ask. So yes, so great. This
You're right, Sonu. Let me just take a minute there. And one of the startups I work with, everybody there, except one guy, everybody there, boys and girls, they are actually younger than my children.
Yeah.
And the clarity they have, and they're all fresh out of college, maybe 2 or 3 years of work experience, very great work experience.
Yeah.
Some from banking, some from media, some from, but essentially 25 to 27 type of age group, and some are even younger.
Yeah.
Clarity which I see, the ability to go deep in detail, which I see, into details, which I see, the ability to ask. I have got no doubt that when I was that age, I was not even 1/10 the person they are in terms of. So this millenniums or Gen Zs, in whichever way we describe, I think they are living in a very fortunate world.
They are.
And they're living in a world and land of opportunities which are order of magnitude more. And therefore, challenges for them are also equally
different. Yeah.
From what we had. We had a very simple playing field. We had a very simple, we have grown up in a very linear kind of dimension. And the ability to kind of toggle between uncertainty. And that is another attribute I have begun to feel comfortable later on in the last 10 years or so, of being comfortable with ambiguity. And that I want to pick that up. In fact, pick up two attributes if you have the time, which is dealing with ambiguity and being comfortable with ambiguity, and knowing fully well that, like any quadratic equation, you may have two right answers. On which one you want to pick. Actually, you could have more than two right answers, because the perennial, it depends.
It depends. Yeah.
So true. In today's world, being comfortable with ambiguity and lack of full knowledge is really essential attribute, I think, because things are changing. We will never ever have full knowledge of everything. So that 80-20 principle, if you have 80%, you got it, just run with it. Because the value of time now is accelerated so much, thanks to changes which we have, that more than makes up.
Yeah.
Because I would almost argue that the time spent on getting the rest 20 is just not worth it.
I completely agree. And as an old boss of mine, old money not in age, but old boss of mine used to say, "Let not good be the enemy of best." And we just keep waiting for everything to fall in place, for everything to be aligned, and only then will we take that first step. Even if you're 80% ready, just run with it, because you have to improvise on the way. You can't keep waiting for the world to be ideal. So yeah, so that is good.
And there is a and I think we should make this work for us.
Hmm.
And it's not that everything is now transient, everything is now living in the moment. Yes, there is a part of. But to me, when I now think about leadership, especially in the last 10 years, when I was on the board of the company here,
Okay.
and had the fortune of working with some outstanding leaders across businesses on the board, and which led me to almost reshape the way. And I was responsible for supply chain for South Asia. Reshape the way supply chain is genetically hardwired into the business, completely different.
Hmm.
And this transformation uh, would not have been possible unless I had the ability or the good fortune of having fruitful discussions with people outside of supply chain. I
Right.
think, therefore, whatever organization you are in, my first advice to youngsters always is, or anybody who uh, I have a conversation with, understand your purpose. Now, this is not the classical purpose of the human being. Yes, that's important.
Hmm.
But understand the purpose of that part of the organization which you lead.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is there not to just to satisfy, some need which you have. That is there for the organization to grow, to either top line, bottom line, mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
There could be hundreds of ways of measuring what's
Yeah.
the ultimate purpose. But very rarely, uh, if you are not the CEO, very rarely you will be leading something which is uh, of which you are the king of that domain.
Karta dharta of that
So
domain.
you,
Huh?
yeah, you understand what is your purpose for that larger
Hmm.
organizational purpose.
Hmm.
And here is where I have seen time and time again, especially when it's a large organization, uh, we don't do a good job very often.
Yeah.
Regardless of the size of the organization, if you can get this clarity as
Yeah.
to what my role in the larger game is,
Yeah.
what my purpose is as an organization, I think that's great.
That's
The,
great. Yeah.
the second dimension for this has been me as a person. And I think one of the reasons of my 4 decades here is me as a person, the things which I like to do and what my job allowed me to do, there was
Hmm.
such big overlap in that.
Hmm.
It was almost that I was doing something which I like doing and getting paid for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's when magic begins to happen. And without getting into details, so I would
Hmm.
urge each one of your audiences
Hmm.
for that. And if it means walking away from a situation which you are not enjoying, walk
Hmm.
away. The world is
Hmm.
very big today.
Hmm.
And despite spending 40 years in a place, I used to tell my guys, look, if you have to leave, leave for the right reasons. Don't leave
Hmm.
because you sit with
Yeah.
some organization. Leave for something larger and bigger.
Yeah. So that's actually quite fascinating. And I think, Pradeep, we'll need a separate episode only to talk about these various facets of leadership. But since this is, titled Experiments in Leadership, would you want to start with an experiment in leadership that you remember that worked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, and that's one of the downsides of spending long years and enjoying what you do. There's more than one.
Yeah, sure.
Start with one which is not my experiment, but I
Yeah.
have been a part of that experiment.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, that did not start in my organization, but I've been so much impacted by it that it impacted
Right.
some of the later things which I did. You may have heard of it, and it's there in public domain. I know the people who kind of gave birth to it. There's a program which Unilever started here, which is
Mm-hmm.
called Shakti.
Shakti.
Shakti is a program.
Shakti, yes. Yeah.
Shakti is a program which was meant. It was directed at economically backward women in
Women.
rural
Yeah.
areas
Yeah.
of this country, and there are and that's the whole. You can spend the episode as to
How that worked, yeah.
and how the state of women in our economy, especially in the rural economy.
Hmm.
When you bring the business purpose of doing something which has got an economic cause, but by overall, by a larger thing of, as we say, making sustainable living commonplace, or bringing something which will change lives or impact lives.
Yeah.
So what the company did is actually started a rural distribution. Very simple term, it's a rural distribution network of ladies, small self-help groups,
Yeah.
at a slightly lower cost, lower margins to the company. They were given
Right.
to basically, sell in their community
Yeah.
in very small amounts, and it costs the company a little bit more than the normal distribution. But our products reached places where otherwise we would not have reached.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
therefore, the gain, I have got no doubt, the gain is absolutely, the economic case for this is very strong.
Yeah.
And therefore, the key learning that anything which you want to do, which appears to be a good thing to do, find out the economic case for it, find out the business case for it. And if you can marry the business economic case, then every effort, and I am a staunch believer, and I have given many kind of theses outside of this company as well, that we need to find the business case for sustainability. And this Shakti is an outstanding example. And today, I don't have the exact numbers, I've been out of circuit, but it runs into thousands of crores of sale is being done.
Thousands of crores worth of sales through
I
Shakti.
don't have the real number, but it's a very large number.
And this is largely in the rural part of
area, and this is about almost about 1 lakh women are involved in this, if not more.
Wonderful.
And I won't be surprised. I can get the number to you, Sonu, later on. But it's a large number. It's a very large number. It's not coming to me, but it's certainly not insignificant on the overall scheme of things.
Wonderful.
So this is the experiment. We inherited it, but whenever I would go out to the field, whenever I would meet the distributor or meet the Shakti ladies, it's such a pride to be associated with that. And the ladies tell you, and I can send you links separately. There are a lot of YouTube videos on this.
Sure.
That actually would claim that my life changed not only because I was earning something, but my status in the society as a human being changed dramatically, as a financially empowered, economically independent woman. So that was one experiment which I think we can all learn from.
So just to interrupt you here, when you talk of empowering women, I do believe that it's not only her life that changes, but it is the life of all future generations. Because when you have this woman who is financially independent, who's more confident, you are actually bringing about a change in all future generations. So would love to hear more about Shakti, and maybe if you send me the link, I'll put it in the YouTube video for others to also have a look at it. Yeah.
I certainly will dig out something, and if I can, I probably will get the latest numbers as well. But that doesn't matter. Regardless of whether it is X crores, Y crores, but the fact is, it's large. It's impacting life, and you're absolutely right. People have said exactly what you said, that it's not only impacting me and my family, but they are almost becoming role models in their communities.
Absolutely.
And and the beauty is, there's not that I know of, not been a single case of financial yeah, exactly. We have not lost any money there. And many of the things were given without, and people will hesitate to put money into places when you don't have the cash in your rural areas where collection is normally the issue. But anyways, so there is a business case for sustainability, and if you that right sweet spot, it's magic.
Yeah. The second, you said you had two experiments that worked.
The other thing which I was, and this is related to slightly what the other attribute I was trying to say, as I have grown, I would really like to talk about we talked about speed of things and 80-20 and how you need to be swift, and I think our lives are being that move slow. The digital capabilities which are coming into our business are enormous. And if we really just step back and see the way our processes are designed, the way our organization, even our structures are designed, they are all around a basic thing of communication, control, and access, which is very physical in nature.
Yeah.
Now, the way the rapidly evolving digital architecture is completely changing this. It's not about SAP anymore. It's not about systems of differentiation or systems of intelligence. It's not about AI. It's not, but the way we look at business, all of that is important. Now we can spend millions of man hours on saying what Chat GPT will do or what ABC capability will do. But the fact is, this acute discomfort comes from the fact that we are seeing them as a challenge to what we are doing today. But the fact it's not a challenge to what we are doing. So we started a simple program called, supply chain. I have always believed that you have a sacrosanct duty to deliver today and prepare for tomorrow. Supply chain has got 4 key things: plan, source, make, deliver. Keep it simple: plan, source, make, deliver. So what the picture of plan, source, make, deliver would be in 5 years on time, if you can envisage, anybody who can even think beyond 2 years as is a little untrue to himself. But the platforms will not change. The ability to give a good customer experience, the ability to give higher level of service, the ability to have my cost savings which are higher than what I have done in the past, or the ability to have a visibility of where my goods are in transit, those things will never change. But the way I do all of that, that will change dramatically.
Yeah.
So we started putting together a program of what we call building blocks for the transformation. There were 20 building blocks. And the good thing is, leaders like Sanjeev Mehta at that time, when we were talking, he said, look, this is, and we completely, this is not a supply chain experiment. This has to be across. And so it ended up being almost a part of a experiment which Sanjeev Mehta led for us, which is re-engineering operations. And the deeper we got into that, the deeper we were thinking, our linear way of looking at the entire company operations end-to-end, not supply chain, the company operation end-to-end changed. At the end of the day, it's quite simple. You've got demand creation as one role, demand capture as one role, and demand fulfillment as one. These are the only 3 things we do in a company. We don't do, despite whatever anybody will tell you. And we've got basically an important set of stakeholders, which we call the consumers, important set of stakeholders, which we call the customers, and we have got an important set of around our operations. So there are 3 ecosystems: consumer, customers, and operations. And there is a mass of data which we have got. And our ability, and call it data lake, call it data strategy. Anybody who is drawing from that lake and is drawing the right things in line with some, we discovered that the rate at which we are innovating, the rate at which we are doing customer service, the rate at which we were cutting down inventory, the rate at which we were, the agility which we had in terms of changing demand, everything underwent order of magnitude change. Why? Because leadership now, and that's my key point, leadership now is no more just the old way of, I will motivate, I will, encourage, I will empower, of course you need to do all of that. But you need to have absolutely sound understanding what not only the human capabilities are to be harnessed, but you also, another axis now coming up. What are the digital capabilities you need to harness? And that is almost an integral part of leadership now. So when I now look at young people, when I look at leaders, I look at what is his x-axis, the leadership ability, and what y-axis is understanding of digital capability. You don't have to be, you should know where to look. You have to have respect and agree to the possibility that in case you have done something in a manner, tomorrow it will be completely be different. And that openness, whether it's a human attribute or that openness is a digital appreciation, one can keep on debating, because I could also argue whatever is happening in the digital space is because of human curiosity.
Human curiosity and human ability to deal with that digital space.
But the two are distinct, two are different. And to therefore look for people in a classical 2x2 matrix. You have to imagine in your mind people who are high on digital and high on the leadership attribute. They are the stars of today. And some people will have to get a bit of teaching on one of the dimensions. But if we do this well, I think 3 things happen. One is the customer experience changes dramatically. Look what Amazon has done to our life, or look what many of the other,
Hmm.
Spotify or Netflix have done.
Hmm.
Our
Hmm.
experience is completely different.
Hmm.
Number two, it allows you to take a part of your operation and really magnify it. If your core strength is innovation, it can really blow innovations, give you
Hmm.
to do it 3 or 4 times
Hmm.
the speed, if speed is
Hmm.
important.
Hmm.
The third thing which it does is it very often leads to very new business systems. And I'll give you an example of that. What do I mean? And very simple base level example.
Hmm.
In supply chain, you would imagine
Hmm.
warehousing is a important function. Logistics, you get things
Yeah.
from A to B. So linear thinking, if I am growing, my capacity has to grow, my warehousing, so my square feet of warehousing has to grow. But if you just step back and see, and it's an irony, all the stock which I've got sitting in there, because I almost went to a space where I would call that all stock is waste.
All stock is waste.
Actually waste because it's not doing anything.
It's just sitting there.
Sitting there.
Right. That's a different way of looking at it. Yeah.
And to make things worse, and we used to have a big laugh about it, some of my commercial colleagues would call it working capital. I said, from which angle do you see? It's not doing, if anything which is called non-working capital is the stock sitting in the
Hmm.
warehouse, because it's
Hmm.
not going anywhere.
Hmm.
Now I
Hmm.
understand if it is going from point A to B, or it is being, if it's been cross-docked or whatever.
Hmm.
So if it is just a intermittent storage point, and helps me go from A to B
Hmm.
warehouse, if I can get my rhythm of going from A to B right, I can go straight from a factory to the end point.
Hmm.
So believe me, we have released almost 25% of our warehousing space.
That's a
As
lot.
we've grown 5 to 7% volumes over the last
Hmm.
7 years, or
Hmm.
certainly last 3 or 4 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
Why?
Hmm.
Because it doesn't have to go to that place anymore. You can ship it
Hmm.
directly because
Hmm.
and digital capabilities that allow you that.
Yeah. 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 Maybe you didn't
Uh,
have that ability some years ago, but today you do.
yeah. So
Hmm.
if I use the digital capabilities only for perpetuating what I have, I will go
Hmm.
from my factory to the warehouse better and from warehouse to the customer
Hmm.
better.
Hmm.
If I see the process, what is my purpose of the company, it is go from A to B actually. I
Yeah.
will do that. I'll employ
Yeah.
and increasingly e-com companies are coming straight to your home, not even to the.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
you give rise to a new business model, which is
Hmm.
intrinsically more efficient.
Hmm.
So these three things, and you need to have co-create a transformative vision.
Yeah.
You need to communicate that well. You need to set up the governance system. And this is the part of my going back to the initial discussion. What you want to do, how you want to
How
do
do
it,
you want to do it?
when you want to
When
do
do
it.
you want to do it? No,
Uh,
so
and you fit that simple, and to me,
yeah,
it becomes therefore uh,
yeah,
the
it,
easy
yeah,
for me to visualize.
yeah, yeah. So among all these, talk about all the experiments that worked, everything that you did right, is there anything that didn't work? Is there
Oh,
an experiment that didn't work for you? And would
uh,
you then want to talk about it?
I would, I would, I'm proud to
Going back to you, you saying I'm okay to tell people
I'm
I
okay to
don't
talk
know.
about, and without getting into specifics,
Yeah.
I keep telling people I have a lot of flaws. In fact, some of them are fatal flaws, and I do not have enough self-awareness to be acutely conscious of them all the time.
Of each one of them and at all times. Yeah, but
Yeah,
okay.
and because if I am, then I would not do some of the very stupid things which I have done in the past.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I can tell you some examples. I have questioned some decisions made by uh, people who are maybe 2 or 3 levels removed from my
Yeah.
which I have,
Hmm.
because they were wrong.
Hmm.
Now, I think they were wrong.
Hmm.
If they didn't agree with this,
Hmm.
and when and the way I have tried to respond to that is, if I am taking decision, maybe there is some people who are working for me who are 2 or 3 levels removed from me, who
Hmm.
have the same feeling. So what it is meant for me is my level of involvement and communication, co-creation is
Hmm. better communication and better dissemination of communication. Yeah.
Sorry about that. So I have been, as I said, pretty dumb to express my what I thought about some decisions and some actions pretty openly and pretty publicly, which I know have not done me any favors in terms of my standing as a professional. I look back, actually, I would have tackled them very differently in terms of the level of, let us say, the level of protest, the level of dissatisfaction, and the level of even the language times which I have used. It didn't help because I lost control of those flaws which I talked about. I became oblivious to those flaws because to a person who's not getting it directly from me, but through second or third hand information, a very biased kind of thing will go to him because this is what I heard Pradeep say. Because it's neither helping me nor helping him. So I was in a way venting, and venting doesn't do any good.
Venting doesn't do any good. Yeah.
And it's not really an experiment, and it probably has impact on some of the things I wanted to do. But I've realized that as I have grown older and have spent time, I've realized you can say the same thing in a manner which is far more constructive. You can say the same thing which is far more inclusive. You can say the same thing in a manner which lets the other person know that you don't agree, but in a manner which doesn't place you in a, you're not judging him, you are judging the decision.
You're judging the decision. Yeah.
And I failed to, and if you were to talk my failure, I used to, I think more than once I have failed to separate the person from the decision, or the person from the event, or person from the action.
Yeah.
And that to me is a trait which I have seen people who are much better than me who don't have this. And I have tried to learn from them. But another thing which I've learned, and which is what I was trying to tell you earlier, if I have felt like that against something which has been taken, decision taken by somebody who is far removed from where I'm sitting and he doesn't know, then many of the people in my decision may be impacting some people like that.
Yeah.
And therefore, the level of co-creation, the level of communication, the level of letting people know your train of thinking and involving them in that train of thinking. And hopefully, I'm convinced once you close the doors in a room, immediately all the stripes go away. Many people have told me my way of talking to a pump operator in a room in a factory, or a refinery in a factory, is same that of talking to the CEO, because both of them must be good at their job, and they're the best guy at that point of time to do the job. Otherwise, they would have been removed. So there's a sense of equality.
Yeah.
And therefore, once you close the doors, you have that sense of equality you must acknowledge.
Yeah.
And I have discovered you come to a richer decision. And that's a strong case for diversity, actually, because if you allow that discussion and allow that space in your organization to happen, you will probably end up having a better decision which you will get.
So if I can just clear my understanding. So what you're saying is that the experiment that did not work for you is not that you asked those questions, but you asked them in a manner that was that could have been better. So, going back, you may have still asked those questions because you did want to speak out, but it was the manner in which you did it, which is a learning that you have had.
Actually,
it is important to speak out, but I think it's important to do it in a non-threatening and in a non-aggressive manner.
And it's a little bit more than that. You're absolutely right. Because I realized in those periods in my life, I also went through, because of this, the personal stress. It doesn't do you any good.
You're right.
You should, so it is like almost becoming, almost doing something against your own. Abel Mujtamar kind of a situation.
No, it doesn't help anybody. No, so Pradeep, we've kind of overshot our time by like mega minutes, but it's just been very, very fascinating. And your whole take on operations, logistics, and different ways of looking at the same business, I think it's quite instructive, and I'm sure that many of our viewers are going to find it even more instructive because they're doing that job right now. So thank you very much for your time. And viewers, keep watching the space. We'll have many more conversations. So till then, bye bye.